This video will cover Chapter 18 of the Human Structure and Function textbook over Human Development and Birth by Ashley Buckner, Caroline Curtis, and Amanda Ryan. Unlike other systems of the body, which are the same in males and females, reproductive system is quite different in both. The sperm of the male and the ovum of the woman come together to develop a child that will eventually become fully sexually mature after puberty. The sperm of the male has three distinct parts: the head, the middle piece, and the tail. Since the tail is flagellum, it allows it to swim into the female reproductive tract toward the woman's ovum. The middle piece contains energy-producing mitochondria that contains the sperm's nucleus and 23 chromosomes from the male, which will contribute to the baby's DNA. The ovum of the woman is stored in the ovaries until their fertile window, and it contains the other 23 chromosomes for the baby's DNA. When an ovum leaves the ovary, it is swept into the fallopian tube by the cilia that line the uterine walls, similar to the way a sperm is propelled by its flagellum. The steps of fertilization with vocabulary are written on the slide as follows. In summary, upon fertilization, the zygote is formed and should eventually turn into a baby after its implantation into the uterine wall or the endometrium. This contact also initiates the development of the placenta, and nutrients start to grow in order to sustain the growth of the zygote into a healthy baby. As a side note, only one sperm should enter an ovum, so the ovum cell membrane and zona pellucida cooperate together to prevent the additional entry of sperm. If this effort fails, and one ovum is fertilized with two or more sperm, this will result in identical twins, etc. This occurs in approximately 1% of the population. The process of development begins with cleavage. Immediately after fertilization, the zygote divides its cells into many more individual cells, each containing a complete set of chromosomes. While this division continues, the growth phase of embryonic development begins, and the cell division is accompanied by an increase in size of daughter cells. That ball of cells grows in number until morphogenesis begins to shape and define the embryo. Once there is a plethora of cells, they begin to differentiate in structure and function, and the first system to develop is the baby's nervous system. While this is all happening, the baby sits inside of a sac containing everything it needs to survive during its gestational period inside of the mother. Extraembryonic membranes lie inside of the sac but outside of the embryo and fetus and provide things like amniotic fluid, nitrogenous waste handling, and nourishment. The four main parts are listed on the slide, and their functions are individualized. The chorion develops the fetal half of the placenta, which is what provides oxygen and nourishment to the embryo, as well as takes away its waste. The yolk sac is the site of blood cell formation, and the allantois is where blood vessels turn into the umbilical cord that everyone has known about. The amnion contains the fluid that cushions and protects the fetus. This is the amniotic fluid I referred to earlier. During this portion of the video, we will discuss the three main stages of development: the preembryonic development, embryonic development, and fetal development. The preembryonic development encompasses the events of the first week when ovulation occurs. The zygote divides repeatedly as it passes down the uterine tube into the uterus. The morula is a ball of embryonic cells that becomes a blastocyst. A blastocyst arranges into an inner cell mass surrounded by layers that becomes a trophoblast. The trophoblast becomes a chorion. Inner cell mass becomes the embryo. The embryonic stage of development begins in the second week and lasts until the second month of development. During the second week, the embryo begins to plant itself into the walls of the uterus. If successful, the woman is considered clinically pregnant. The inner cell mass becomes the embryonic disc. The amniotic cavity surrounds the embryo and acts as an insulator, and the three primary germ layers are endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. All of the organs can be traced back to an individual germ layer. In the third week, the nervous system and the development of the heart begin. In the fourth and fifth weeks, the umbilical cord fully forms and limb buds start to appear. The head becomes bigger and the organs continue to develop. In the sixth and eighth, the baby begins to look like a human. The fetal development stage includes the 3rd through 9th months of development. This is illustrated in the picture given in the slide, but in summary, the 3rd and 4th months, the head is large, the nose is flat, and the eyes are far apart, and the ears are well formed. Fingernails, eyelashes, eyebrows, and hair are also forming. Cartilage begins to be replaced by bone. In the 5th through the 7th month, mothers begin to feel the flutters. As the baby's legs grow, he or she will begin to kick. The eyelids are fully opened, and the baby weighs about 3 pounds. In the 8th through 9th month, the baby begins to rotate and the head is pointed to the cervix. If not, the baby is considered breech, meaning the feet are first. The baby is approximately 7.5 pounds in the 9th month. There are 3 main stages of labor. During the first stage, the water breaks and the cervix gradually dilates. This happens by the uterine contractions occurring in such a way that the cervical canal slowly disappears and the uterus is pulled upwards towards the baby's head. With further contractions, the baby's head wedges into the cervical dilation, releasing the amniotic fluid, commonly referred to as water. When the cervix has finished dilating, stage 2 begins, and the contractions occur every 1 to 2 minutes and last about a minute each, accompanied by a desire to push. Contrary to popular belief, labor does not end once the baby has been delivered. The baby is delivered during stage 2, and once it's breathing normally, the cord is cut and tied, severing the child from the placenta. In stage 3, the placenta, or afterbirth, is delivered, usually about 15 minutes after the delivery of the baby.